For as long as you live, you are always going to be searching for a completion. You're lying to yourself because nothing will ever be complete. For as long as you live, the creative task is to tussle and make love with the present moment. You're going to go through some periods of not knowing what the hell to do, and that's fine, as long as you're listening. The Way of the Superior Man is mainly a book aimed towards men. However, I feel like it captures some fundamental truths about the human condition. Whether that is navigating the world of masculinity, fundamental spirituality, or even navigating the world of the feminine, this book will complete you. Now, I'm not over exaggerating when I say this. This has literally been the best book. I've picked it up twice now anyway. This has literally been the best book I've ever read in my life. The lessons are timeless, the truths are deep. So here are 5 vital things I've learned from this book. Point number 1. Stop hoping for a completion of anything in life. Now, I said that with that expression on my face because it was more so a note to self. This is probably the thing I struggle with most in my life. Now, as a whole, this chapter, in one sentence, if I could summarize it, would be, for as long as you live, you are always going to be searching for a completion. To the masculine game, to your life in general, you're always going to be able to create a sentence in your head which is, as soon as I get X, I will feel complete. Or as soon as my wife stops acting in this way, then everything will be better. As soon as I get this job, everything will be fine. But what this book lies out is that this is actually a lie. You're lying to yourself from the fundamental core of your being because nothing will ever be complete. For as long as you live, the creative task, to quote this book, is to tussle and make love with the present moment. The end of the masculine game is what we seek fundamentally. As men, and of course I'm going to speak for men at this point because it's my experience, the masculine game is something where we continuously endeavour on missions. Now, for example, if you see sports, any sport, for example, it involves a continuous rising of tension where people are on the edge of their seats, ready for their team to put the ball in the net, and then a release when they actually score. That is what we crave, and that is what we convince ourselves we can get when we create sentences in our mind, such as, when X happens, I will feel Y. So, scrap that. You're never going to feel complete. Here, I actually have a quote from another book, from Ryan Holiday, The Ego is the Enemy. Anyway, we have, training is like sweeping the floor. Just because we've done it once doesn't mean the floor is clean forever. Every day the dust comes back. Every day we must sweep. Did you get what you needed?
Yeah.
Jeez. What else? Did you get some fun, Jan?
Got some fun, yeah. Chocolate, got a lot of stuff. Do you want a class on?
No, I'm good.
£1.60 a pop.
Really?
So fucking good.
Are you going to eat them all within the next...
Am I going to meet? Yeah.
Are you going to eat? By the way, when I'm talking to the camera. just in case you respond. So I'll give you an example from my own life, right? I found that whenever I would be working a job, I would always crave like the end of the job. Now, you could call this the grass is always greener syndrome. You're in a relationship or you've got a good job, but you're always thinking about the next thing. You're always thinking about the completion. So again, forget this and give your gift, live your purpose fundamentally from this moment. And upon this point, I wanted to read a little quote from the book. So he says, most postponements are excuses for a lack of creative discipline. Limited money and family obligations have never stopped a man who really wanted to do something, although they provide excuses for a man who is not really up to the creative challenge in the first place. What I would add to this is, let's say you have that idea, the sentence in your mind of this thing that you really want to do, but for some reason you can't do it now. 1, ask yourself whether that is actually what you want to do. And 2, ask yourself, what's stopping me? What's stopping you? Now, point number 1, I think, is a good segue into our next point, which is, if you don't know your purpose, discover it now. Purpose is the core of your being, the reason why you're on this earth. And it has to come before everything else in your life, whether that's your family, whether that's your relationship, any other necessities that you have in your life. Of course, health would be number 1, but 2, your purpose has to come before a lot of things in your life. Now, you might be sitting there and thinking, I don't really know my purpose. Well, purpose exists like an onion in the sense of there are many, many layers. So you might have to continuously peel back multiple layers until you get to the core of your purpose, which is why you're here on the earth. So when he says in the book, give your gift lovingly, what he's talking about is living from the grounded root of your purpose. Now, the way to discover your purpose, if you're sat there and you're thinking, shit, I don't have a clue what I want to do on this earth, or I don't actually know why I'm here. If you're just getting into the monotonous, habitual dole of everyday life, you turn up to work, you fill out some spreadsheets, you get paid, and then you have some fun. If you're feeling like you're lacking a little bit of meaning, from my perspective, and also he would argue in the book, is you need solitude. You need to cut out all of your distractions because you're doing yourself a disservice when you don't live in line with your purpose or if you're not actively discovering it. Now, look, it's not like you're going to wake up one day and be like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. It might happen that way, but what you need to accept is that you're going to go through some periods of not knowing what the hell to do. You're going to go through some periods of unknowingness, and that's fine. As long as you're listening to your heart, to God, whatever you want to name it, as to an answer to why you're here on earth. So, solitude. Cut out all the distractions. No TV, no phone, no music, just you. Sit in your room, just stare at the wall. And do not leave your solitude until you come out of it with a purpose, with a life vision, with something to center your life around, even if it's just for a season. A question that helps me and some of my friends, which I learned from Alex Hormozy, is the season of life I am in is, or I am in this season of life. Figure out what season of life you're in. And if it's not, your fundamental, deep, attributed purpose, don't worry. You'll get closer to it with each peeling back of the onion. If you're not living true to your purpose, you're weaker and you're doing yourself a disservice. To quote, without a conscious life purpose, a man is totally lost, drifting, adapting to events rather than creating events. Without knowing his life purpose, a man lives a weakened, impotent existence, perhaps eventually becoming even sexually impotent or prone to mechanical and disinterested sex. Fuck that. Now, you figured out your purpose, or you're open to figuring out your purpose. This next part is probably the most important thing I've learned from this book, and it's something I struggle with sometimes, or have been struggling with. Perhaps I'm figuring out the deepest layer of my purpose. Who knows? But anyway, point number 3. Don't get lost in tasks and duties. If you don't know your purpose, you're going to be getting lost in tasks and duties anyway, because you don't really know what to dedicate your energy towards. For example, you turn up to work, or you turn up to your daily life, you don't really know what to prioritize, you don't know what you value, therefore you flitter around non-energetically and quite placidly from task to task. And nothing has a core meaning to it because it's not attributed to a bigger picture. It's not attributed to a higher power. For example, let's say on the flip side, you know your purpose, right? And your purpose is to help as many people as you possibly can. Something I attribute to my purpose, which is why I've created this YouTube channel. Let's say that's your purpose. You want to help as many people as you fundamentally can. Getting caught up in spreadsheets, and if you're in a job where you're not working one-to-one with people, or if you're in a job that is just purely target-based, then it's not going to be the fundamental, I've used that word a lot, I understand. It's not going to be the core expression of your purpose. Now, being caught up in tasks and duties will have a meaningless feel to it. So let me quote some of the things from the book. The superior man is not seeking for fulfillment through work and woman because he is already full. For him, work and intimacy are opportunities to give his gifts and be vanished in the bliss of giving. As long as life continues, the creative challenge is to tussle, play, and make love with the present moment while giving your unique gift. For example, even now, as you're watching this video or reading this book or whatever you're doing, you may be in a do mode, totally ensconced in the process of watching. If you were to die right now, what would be the feeling texture of your last moment? Are you feeling the infinite mystery of existence so that your last moment would be one of awe and gratitude? Is your heart so wide open that your last moment would dissolve in perfect love? Or are you so absorbed in some task that you would hardly notice death upon you until the last moment and whoosh, everything is gone? The test of your fullness in every moment is your capacity to die in free and loving surrender, knowing you've done everything you could do while alive to give your gift and know the truth of being. You are not a drone. You are the unbounded mystery of love. Be so, without forgetting your tasks. So the way you can actually use this in your everyday life is add little things into your day which snap you out of the do mode, the productivity list, the to-do list, the tasks that other people are ascribing to you. Behold an image of the most enlightened being, whether it's Alan Watts, someone who looks at you and instantly you can look at a picture and you can know, right, that's why I'm here. Let me get back to it, or let me align more deeply. So figure out your purpose and don't get lost in any other tasks or duties that aren't fully aligned to that. Now, last two, and on to the world of women. So, number 4, don't analyse your woman. This has been probably one of the best things I've ever learned. And to be honest, if I could have learned this, maybe when I was 5 years old, growing up with 2 sisters, I would have solved or avoided a lot of arguments with my sisters. But anyway, what this chapter encapsulates is if a woman is genuinely feminine, she will sometimes get in moods which can be quite turbulent, like the passing of weather, where if you work in a masculine way with your mindset, you'll probably want to sit someone like that down and be like, right, let's talk about this. Let's get to the core of the issue and let's figure it out. One thing I learned from Jordan Peterson is that most of the time when men talk about problems, they want to reach a conclusion. But with women, they just want to talk about things in order to talk about things. And in regards to solving problems, it's actually better the way that women do it because they don't always want a conclusion. Now, with this point, I want you to not think so much about talking, and I want you to think more so about interjecting a woman who is in a bad mood with something physical. So let's say she's in a mood and she's thinking a little bit about things, or maybe she's a bit anxious for whatever reason. Go up to her, hum her favourite song if you know her well, or if she's your woman, or if she's a good friend of yours. Spin her around, push her a little bit, like in a playful way, dance with her, or come up to her and go whoosh in her face and scare her out of her skin. Maybe not out of her skin, but give her a little jolt so she can get out of her thinking brain and more into the intuitive feeling physical body so she can snap out of the experience. Yeah, because if you sit down and you try and analyze the problem, most of the time you'll realize there's not actually a problem there. Granted, sometimes you might realize that there is something to talk about and you do need to figure something out, whether it's a work problem, and she will very much appreciate you talking about that. But most of the time, your masculine gift is to interrupt her moods with love. That one was a little bit tricky or trickier to explain, so let me summarize a little thing from the book. Don't analyze your woman. The feminine's moods and opinions are like weather patterns. They are constantly changing, severe and gentle, and they have no single source. No analysis will work. There is no linear chain of cause and effect that can lead to the kernel of the problem. There is no problem, only a storm, a breeze, a sudden change in weather. And the basis of these storms are the high and low pressure systems of love. When a woman feels love flowing deeply, her mood can instantly evaporate into joy, regardless of the supposed reason for the mood. So there you go. So, last point, and probably the most enjoyable to read from a laughing point of view, is your excellent track record means nothing to her. Women want love now. Well, let me explain a little bit. As masculine men, or as men in general, we value the past accomplishments or the past occurrences of our fellow men. We like to know that a man has been through certain trials and he has built up a track record of successes that we can then judge him by. And we like to articulate these and refer to our past successes. And that's important to us. But for women, it doesn't mean shit. So, in the sense of, you could spend 5 hours with your woman and have an absolutely brilliant time, and you've given her all the amount of love that you can possibly give her. 5 hours have gone by, still going well. You say the wrong thing within 10 seconds. That 5 hours is meaningless, and that's the way it is. That's just the way it is, because women want love right now. Therefore, your past successes don't mean anything to her. The example he gives in the book is, let's say you've been plugging away at your purpose for the last 5 months and you set out to make $1 million and you told your woman this and everything. You make $1 million or £1 million, You come back home, you tell her, love, I've done it. We made £1 million. And she's like, okay, cool, brilliant, happy for you. You didn't get the milk from this morning though, did you? What? Milk? We could buy so much milk you don't even understand. Yeah, irrelevant, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you've earned £1 million. The fact that you didn't fall through on your promise puts everything into perspective. So this is the way it is. A quote from the book: a man's track record means nothing to the feminine. A man could be perfect for 10 years, but if he's an asshole for 30 seconds, his woman acts like he's always been one. Restore love and happiness in the present moment. Don't justify your little mistake by referring to your long line of successes. Don't do that. And also what he says is technically a weak man would lament this, and he would say, why are women like this, and complain and throw his arms up in the air, but it's the way it is. Get used to it. Your excellent track record is meaningless to her. If you've stuck around this far, I appreciate it, and I've got one more bonus for you. And this is probably one of the most, I've said this with a lot of things today, but this is a very profound lesson that I've also learned from this book. So point number 6, here we go, it's a bonus for you. You are always searching for freedom. Point number 1 was, of course, stop hoping for a completion of anything in life, and this is parallel to it. We want the release of the masculine game. We want the completion of the mission. Just like when you're playing a video game, Skyrim, FIFA, or whatever, you want that rise of tension in order to release it and feel like there's nothing more to do. And this is what it's going to be for the rest of your life. You've got to kind of operate within this paradox. And the way I see it is you've got to give yourself the freedom that you're always searching for. Or even better, be the freedom you're always searching for. Because what we fear is a completion of the game. Even though it's what we want the release, we want the game to be over, we want the mission to be accomplished, but that's what we fear, because what we fear is, oh, shit, there's nothing else to do. There's no mission to complete. There's nothing to work towards. So you have to operate within this paradox and give yourself fullness rather than acting from emptiness. The way I see emptiness is you see something within your life as something that can make you full, an external event, an external accomplishment, something that can fill you from the inside. However, fullness is you don't need anything. You don't need work. You don't need, of course, you need food, shelter, and water and all of that stuff, the survival necessities, but you don't need work. You don't need intimacy. You don't need any of that stuff. However, you engage in it anyway, because you can operate from a place of fullness, from a place of, I already have everything I need, but I want to do this stuff. It's a bonus. Everything is extra. So it's a paradox. Few men ever release themselves enough to relax in this depth of freedom because they are afraid of absolutely no stress. No stress means no thoughts, no sense of protected self, no mission to accomplish. The end of the masculine game. Whew. Yeah, this stress-free, unprotected end of the game is exactly what you're always seeking through orgasm, financial killings, or winning a war. You are willing to experience lesser forms of masculine death and ecstasy, but you are unwilling to face the death of your separate self-sense and finally be the freedom you have only allowed yourself to taste in moments. Be the freedom you're always searching for. There we go. One last pick up of the book. Also have it in Spanish as well, so why not? Porque no? Hope that was vital for you. Vital enough. Now you might be thinking, what should I do now? One question. What would a superior man do?